That's James's dinner for today, so that's hummus and some cheese. And he's going to talk about Ezra Pound's Cantos. And I'm just going to go in. So, talking about the Cantos, James. And I'll see you later.
I'll spare you guys talking about not eating. Where did we leave off, folks? Not hearing you? Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay. Oh yes. Not sure exactly when the camera faded out, but we'll start off on page 7 of this edition, New Directions. New Directions. So much of this is old-fashioned garbage. And if it is a new direction, you know, like a detour to the marsh is might be a new direction, but it's not one that's advised to take. And I'm going to take you through at least some of this. Swamp. New directions. Okay, snipe come for their bath, bend up their wing joints, spread wet wings to the sun film, and by Skios to the left of the Naxos passage, as I mentioned before. This would be somewhere in the Cyclades group of islands. It always called an archipelago. This Greek word, pretty sure, or taken from the Greek ourselves. The Greek mainland still exists. Naxos does. Naviform rock, overgrown algae. Naviform is shaped like a ship. Algae cling to its edge. There is a wine red glow in the shallows, a tin flash in the sun dazzle. The ship landed in Skios, men wanting spring water. Okay, as I mentioned before, I might have been caught by the camera. The men wanted spring water, or the men wanted. And by, so get ready. There's just a whole slew of ends. It's a very annoying, it's going to seem annoying me pointing it out, but it's annoying how this guy chucks it. He's supposed to be a poet, really stingy with words, and he's chucking ands hither, thither, and yon, everywhere. Some of the stuff is translations, it seems like, from medieval letters, and the ands might be in the original, but you want to put stuff into modern, if you translate, into modern English form. And we don't put ands hither, thither, and yon, unless we're really stupid, pretentious, or both. It reminds me a little bit. It's not quite as bad as the...
You still wanted this?
Yes, please. The Book of Mormon. If you've read it, I actually only read 40 different translations. That's 40. I'm not exaggerating. Only Bible or portions of the Bible in 60 different translations. So for some languages, for example, the indigenous languages of Canada, there might only be the Gospels translated. That's all that's been translated so far. There might be only 1 or 2 Gospels, or at least this was when I was acquiring the Bibles that I did. I had to order it, but some of them were carried on the bookshelves by a good Christian bookstore back then. And I think it went out of business or moved. It's no more. If it's still in business, it's no longer located across from Gold Gardens where it used to be located. Anyway, yeah, for a while it was cheap to get Bibles. Cheap to get Books of Mormon. But then Bibles got, excuse me, I don't know, hey Christians. You're supposed to be spreading the word, not making it hard to obtain. Or do you all believe in that prosperity gospel garbage? It's not good news, that's bad news. Gospel is supposed to be a translation of good news. Evangelion or something like that in Greek. Yes. Eu means good. Evangel means message. Good news. Messenger. Angel actually means messenger. Maybe. Check it out. Okay, men wanting spring water. The men wanted spring water. And by the rock pool, what rock pool? A rock pool. Put a rock pool. By the rock pool. What is this? This guy's stupid, Jim. By a rock pool. The rock pool. You use the, it's an article, and it's a definite article. And is the, or are the indefinite articles. Indefinite, you don't know what you're referring to. The rock pool refers to a rock pool that the reader, the auditor, knows about. The rock pool. What a stupid idiot. It's amazing he didn't put and by rock pool, because that's what he does so much of in these cantos, probably elsewhere. A young boy loggy with a vine must. To Naxos, yes, we'll take you to Naxos. Come long, lad. Not that way. Aye, that way is Naxos. So, and I said it's a straight ship and an apparently it wasn't, because an ex-convict out of Italy knocked me into the forestays. He was wanted for manslaughter in Tuscany. And the whole 20 against me. And the whole 20 were against me. And it should be the whole 20 were against me. What's this with the and? Mad for a little slave money. I wanted to turn this kid into a slave. And they took her out of Skios, her would be the ship, and off her course. And just say off course. Her course, maybe, I don't know. And the boy came to again with the racket. That suggests he was knocked out with vine must, which would be, I think we call it most now. Is that what Germans call it? It's kind of like raw wine or stuff like that. Vine must. And the boy came to with the racket. He has a gan in there, I don't know. And looked out over the bows and to eastward. I talked about this before. Yeah, you don't say. The boy came to with the racket, looked out over the bows, looked out eastward over the bows to the Naxos passage. But he's throwing in all sorts of extra words, unnecessary words, and this is supposed to be poetry. It's not even good, succinct prose. God's sleight then, like a sleight of hand. God's sleight. Why he repeats it I don't know. Ship stock fast in sea swirl. Okay, so this is a new clause after God's sleight, the second one. I maintain a redundant one. He slams a semicolon in there, and ship stock fast in sea swirl. Ivy upon the oars. It's amazing he puts the in front of oars. Ivy. King Pentheus. Grapes with no seed, but sea foam. Ivy in scupper hole. I think the Greeks would say akites. What does that mean? Spouse or something like that in Greek. What does Pentheus mean? Kind of, it was probably derived from a form of penta, five. Pentheus. Anyway, okay, Ezra Pound. You know, he's pulling the stuff out of books. Yeah. I'm not going to say what portion of his anatomy he's pulling it out. He really wasn't. He's pulling the stuff out of books. Didn't have all of it. He apparently had studied some Greek and stuff. And Ketes, stood there, and the god stood by me, water cutting under the keel. So let's look at this god-awful sentence. God's light, then God's light. Still part where? Okay, still part of the sentence. It's a colon. Almost like a period. Ship stock fast in sea swirl. Okay. The ship stocked fast in sea swirl. So it kind of... the ship stood stock still in sea swirl. The ship stuck fast in sea swirl. But ship stock fast in sea swirl. You know, like, I don't think there's anything that would qualify as a verb in there. It's crying out for a verb. There wasn't a verb in the first, I guess you could call it clause. God's slight, then God's slight. Ivy upon the oar, so we're waiting for a real verb. King Pentheus. What does that mean? Where's that coming from? King Pentheus. Understand, these are all separated now. Ship stock fast in sea swirl. Ivy upon the oars. King Pentheus are all separated by commas. It's just kind of a listing of stuff. Grapes with no seed but sea foam. So I think it's saying no seed, only sea foam instead of seeds or something like that. But I'm not sure exactly what this bozo is saying. And you know, it's kind of hard to care. Ivy in scupper hole. Okay, so scupper is kind of like a drain on a deck or something like that. So ivy's kind of stopped. Okay, so that's one sentence. I don't really see anything that's a legitimate verb in there. And this, unfortunately, is the fashion. I think it's Bozo here who made it fashionable. Ezra Pound died 1972. You know, that's over 50 years ago. That's over half a century. It ain't fashionable to write like a bozo at any time, but particularly when that bozo's 50 years out of date. This stuff was churned out between 1930, or published initially. 1932, well, there's some stuff that really wasn't published. You know, there's stuff dated in 1972. I think the last publications of the Cantos that were directed by His Royal Majesty was 1959. But 1930. This is 2025. 95 years ago. This stuff, and this is from the first, this Canto 2 was from the stuff that was published in 1930. Who knows when this idiot first committed it to paper, typed it up, printed it up, or whatever. It's old-fashioned. Old-fashioned. And not because it's modernist, it's just stupid old-fashioned. It should never have been in fashion. But this fashion for not having verbs in so-called poetry, here they are. It's prose, and it doesn't even have verbs in it. And it's supposed to be poetic. You know, if you're going to drop stuff off, drop adjectives out. Don't drop verbs out, for Pete's sake. I said Pete. I was thinking something else. So I think he thought that was cute. Yes. And then it's kind of like a ship. Skipper. Acuities stood there, means spouse, I don't know. These characters that you're going to run across are from some myth. I haven't even been really motivated to pull out my Robert Graves and find out who these chimps are. And Greek, so-called myth. Some of this stuff is really legend. Some of it's actually kind of transmogrified history. Now, right at the end of the Robert Graves listing of myths, he's got the Trojan War. That stuff is transmogrified history. It's the stuff about the Trojan War, really Odyssey related. It's just transmogrified history, especially the Iliad. But it's supposed to be myth. Just like the Bible's supposed to be myth, all of it. You'll find Assyrian kings. Any number of them mentioned in the Bible. There's some stuff that purports to be history. Some of the names are garbled. What is Ashurbanipal? Osnapper, I think he's called. It's garbled, but it's in the chronology. Is not. The chronology is solid for the Assyrian kings in the sense of being placed relative to each other in sequence. The actual dating system that we've got for the Bible is reliant on the Assyrian dating system. There's no accounting of anything like a trustworthy accounting of years in the Old Testament. Yeah, Osnapper, that's Ashurbanipal. He's mentioned. I believe Ezra Pound is mentioned. I forget what he's called. We call Sennacherib. We call him Sennacherib usually. That's just a biblical misrendering of the name. And who else? Shalmaneser, he's mentioned there. It's actually Shalman Asherid, something like that in the original Assyrian. Tiglath-Pileser is actually Tukulti-Abil-Ashar, something like that in the Assyrian. We use the biblical rendering Tiglath-Pileser. Shalmaneser, I think people usually say. Sargon, that's the biblical rendering. We say Sargon, but it's really Sharakan in the original Assyrian. How many kings is that in a row? I'm kind of going backwards, but Tiglath-Pileser, Shalmaneser, Sargon the second. There was Sargon the Great. He wasn't an Assyrian king, he was a Akkadian king. Sargon the First was a known entity if ever there wasn't. And Sennacherib, Ezra Pound, I'm pretty sure he's mentioned in the Old Testament, and Ashurbanipal. That's a sequence. The Bible doesn't miss any of them. All the way down to Ashurbanipal. They call it Osnapper, but that's 6 in a row. Going from, I think, something to 745 BC to roughly maybe 629 BC. More than 100 years. The sequence there. That's history, folks. You might not like to hear that. I'm not a Christian or anything like that. I'm agnostic, but you don't go around attacking straw men. Oh, it's all myth. It's all made up. Because I don't like Christianity. And it's got to be all a lie. And that's not me saying that. I'm being ironic. I'm adopting a voice there. A little bit of a monologue. Okay. Ketes stood there, and the god stood by me, water cutting under the keel. Sea break from stern forwards. He's got not forwards, but forwards. Maybe that's a little bit of, he chucks in a bit of nautical terminology. Maybe that's a little bit of nautical terminology. Wake running off from the bow. And here's the and, see, again. And where was Gunwale? There it was now. Was Vine Trunk. He actually chucks in some a verb, was again. But No. So I stood there, and the god stood by me, and after that, it's water cutting under the keel. So it should be water was cutting under the keel. Sea break from stern forward, so I presume sea break was cutting under the keel. But he leaves stuff out. Stuff that's kind of important. Verbs, maybe. Wake running off from the bow. Wake was running off from the bow. This listing of things is just garbage. Now, where was gunwale? And where a gunwale was? Where was gunwale? Where was gun? You know, when you use that in English, when you say where was gunwale, what is that? It deserves a question mark after it. And where was gunwale? And where the gun was, or gunwale, I think is usually how it's supposed to be. There now was vine trunk. And where there was a gunwale, there now, I guess you could invert here, there now was vine trunk. There was a vine trunk or something like that. There now was a vine trunk. And where there was a gun, yeah, he's left the there out. And where a gun was, there was a vine trunk or something like that. Stupid. Or vine trunks or something like that. And 10th thrill. Boy, oh boy, this guy got a real thrill out of throwing that in. I suspect that's tendril, just an old-fashioned version of it. Or maybe it's an Irish version of it. Irish people sometimes will turn THs into, or T's into THs, D's into something that might render as a DH. Wow. It's just showing off, hey, like, there's this alternative version of tendril. It doesn't really bear on the issue at hand. But I'm going to chuck it in there because I'm going to show off my learning. It's just showing off. To no point. In Ulysses, James Joyce is showing off, but the stuff kind of has a point. Even in Finnegan's Wake, you get the sense when you're going through. You don't really read it. You kind of study it if you're at all interested. You kind of get the sense it's to some sort of point. This is to no point. This guy was a nobody by comparison with James Joyce in terms of actual knowledge, much less the ability to put knowledge into something like a coherent, meaningful form. And 10th row where cordage had been, grape leaves on the rowlocks. So 10th row where cordage had been. So yeah, I mean he's dropping out the adjectives. Grape leaves on the warlocks, the rowlock. Heavy vine on the oar shafts. And out of nothing, a breathing hot breath on my ankles. Ooh, what a thrill he must have got. Yeah, that's just a little commentary. Hot breath on my ankles, beasts like shadows in glass, a furred tail upon nothingness. Lynx purr, as in a cat's purr. Lynx purr and heathery smell of beasts. Can't say I've ever smelled heathery smell. Maybe his beasts hanging around the heather that he was smelling or something like that. But maybe, at least he's offering something that is called imagery. It's image, it's strictly speaking, where tar smell had been. So I guess there's tar smell on ships. I know I've actually done a lot of travel on ships. I'm old enough so that I traveled across the Atlantic in an ocean liner and traveled much of the length of it. So I was going east-west from England to Canada, vice versa. And from England down to South Africa. It's a good portion of the Atlantic. So, and the thing you do notice is the salt smell. Tar smell had been sniff and padfoot of beasts. So is that the beast sniffing or the smell of it? I don't know. Don't much care, actually. Eye glitter out of black air. Eye glitter out of black air. Okay, I guess it was nighttime. I don't know. The sky overshot, dry with no tempest. why would you say no tempest? You know, like still. What does it mean, no tempest? Stupid. The sky overshot. Like, is it overcast or something like that? Out of black air, he says that. Sniff and padfoot of beasts. So you're just repeating that. Why? You know, like, is it that special? I don't think so. You know, like, I don't disbelieve in refrains. I think sometimes it can be very effective. Make sure, if you're doing a refrain, that it actually is somehow memorable, somehow important, or both. Yeah. Sniff and padfoot of beasts. He repeats that. Fur brushing my knee skin. Okay, I guess he's saying instead of the skin of my knee, or something like that. My knee skin. Rustle of airy sheaths. Dry forms in the ether. And the ship like a keel in shipyard. And the ship was like a keel in shipyard. Now, keel is being used, like a part for a hole here. But what's the point? I mean, a keel is the longitudinal part. I think the original idea was just to have one beam or something like that extending from along the bottom of the ship, from stem to stern. And the ship like a keel in shipyard. It should be the ship was as in a shipyard, slung like an oxen in Smith's sling. So when you leave or the off of Smith, it's a personal name. So like was it Joseph Smith, slung like an oxen, Smith's sling. It doesn't capitalize Smith, but that's the way it reads. That's the way it sounds. Smith's sling. Yeah. Slung like an ox in a Smith's sling. That's what it should be. Ribs stuck fast in the ways.
You have a minute.